Welcome, blood brothers and sanguine sisters, to Deeply Discussing Dexter. I'm your host, Dale Maxfield. I'm joined by Aaron Caldwell.
Hello.
Brooke Merritt.
Hi.
And Zach Rowland.
Hey.
And we are speaking for the last time about Dexter, the series. We finished Season 8. We talked about the finale. Now we're going to talk about the series as a whole. Now that we've all seen it, Zach was our final... our finalist here. He was the Dexter virgin who had yet to see the series before we started the show, and now he's caught up. So I think it's only right that we start by talking through Zach's predictions, which he made after we watched Season 8, Episode 8. So before the last 4 episodes. So Zach, do you want to take us through that and see how you did with your predictions?
Where are they at? Season 8, Episode 8? All right, here we go. So, looks like I said that Vogel is part of the brain surgeon, or is the brain surgeon. I guess I was kind of right about that. I mean, with the Saxon thing.
She's related to the brain surgeon.
Yeah, but not in... Yeah, she was in the capacity that I thought she was going to be a part of it. She wasn't, but just related. So, you know, I'll take a half a point.
Okay.
Quinn killed Cassie, and when we found out by Amy Metro, that clearly did not happen.
No,
but it would have been fun.
Would have been badass.
Yeah, Batista will make captain. Did not happen. As a matter of fact, I think he's going to get demoted for his inability. Yeah, to be able to hold a witness or someone for a crime. Yeah, let's see. Detective Black Lady will become lieutenant. We never even saw her again in the last few episodes. She was there and gone. Deb will rejoin Miami Metro and survive the series. I was half right. So another half point.
But
I got
did
1
she,
full points.
Did she rejoin Miami Metro?
Yeah, I guess she was still thinking about it.
Well, no, because
she took her badge back. And then
the
she was
previous
thinking about
episode, she was setting up her desk because she finds Quinn's
I'll give you that.
engagement ring.
Yeah.
I'm not happy about these and statements, these wild and statements of should go back to my Metro and survive the series. Half a point.
Listen, I'm not going to get past 2 points, I'm sure. Let's see. Vogel may not survive. Dexter kills her after finding out about her involvement in the brain surgeon. Nope. She didn't survive, but also Dexter didn't kill her. So didn't get that.
Okay, so that one worked against you for guessing too much.
Yep. Neither Hannah or Dexter die. Maybe they run away together. They don't run away together. Clearly they try, but Dexter's a dumbass and just doesn't make it. But Hannah doesn't die. Yeah,
Hannah's fine.
True. Half point. So Jamie and Quinn break up because Quinn murdered her friend Cassie.
Got that half right.
Get that half. Yeah,
a lot of half points.
They broke up.
Half points.
The reason was not Cassie; it was Deb.
Yeah, Cody and Aster never appear again. Nailed it.
Yes.
Nailed that.
No Cody or Aster again in the show.
That's right. Harrison ends up with the grandparents. Did not get that one. Definitely did not see him ending up with Hannah at the end. Masuka leaves for the private sector. Maybe his own privates. Did not get that one. And my ideal ending is that Dexter will die like the Breaking Bad ending, which does not happen. They do the anti-Breaking Bad ending. And Deb comes to terms with everything and either arrests or kills Hannah or Dexter, and that definitely does not happen.
No. Deb did come to terms with everything.
Yeah. So we'll say I got maybe 2 points out of my 12 guesses that are also multi-guesses.
I thought those were amusing when you were going through those and making them.
Yeah. That's pretty funny.
So one of the questions that I wanted to ask was, so it's a 2-part question. We'll do it one at a time. The first part is, what would have been, in your opinion, the ideal season for the show to have ended if it had ended before season 8?
Probably. I don't even think 5, because like 5 doesn't really go out on a good note either. Like 5's an okay season, but it could have probably done without 6. I guess 7. I mean, there really isn't any good season. Like 4, but even at 4, we've got the death of Rita, but Dexter still lives. So,
well, let's go over the season finales really quick, just to refresh everybody. So season 1, Dexter kills his brother, the Eye Struck Killer, and everything's fine. At the end of season 2, Lila kills Dokes, Dexter kills Lila, everything's fine. End of season 3, Dexter kills Miguel and gets married, everything's fine. End of season 4, Dexter kills Trinity, Trinity kills Rita. End of season 5, Lumen leaves the show forever, and Dexter's okay for the most part. End of season 6, Deb finds out that Dexter is a murderer and later the Bay Harbor Butcher, because he kills Travis Marshall in front of her. Season 7 ends with... I don't even remember now.
Hannah escapes. Don't either.
Hannah escapes and leaves the orchid on his doorstep.
Yeah.
And Dexter...
it's fine.
Yeah,
pretty much.
And then season 8, obviously, we just spent an hour or so talking about.
I guess 5. I think 5 would have probably been the most ideal, because Lumen leaves and Dexter comes to terms with the fact that, like, not anyone else is like him, I mean...
Yeah. What do you think, Brooke?
I actually agree. I think, 4 was the strongest season, and it had a really good jumping off point for the next season. I don't think they served the next season as well as they could have, but that would have been a good place to wrap it up, get some redemption, some growth, and then end it rather than drive it right into the ground. They actually ended 5 on a pretty optimistic note, relatively speaking. With character arcs for Dexter, that would have been probably a good place to end it.
Aaron?
I think thematically, this show is not served well with a good ending, with a happy ending. I think there are 2 points that they could have ended the show, and I would have been okay with it. Season 4 with Rita's death. Everything coming home to roost for him. That would have been a perfect ending. I actually think the best ending for the show is the moment Deb finds out at the end of season 6. It would have been the perfect, just, damn, she found out. Boom, cut to credits.
But then no exploration of that at all?
I mean,
no consequences?
It leaves it up to the imagination.
Okay.
Because from that point on, nothing hit for the audience. Like, season 7, as big as a redemption it was for me, a lot of people didn't like it. Zach didn't like how season 7 happened, with the explanation and Deb's working through figuring it out. A lot of people didn't like that. I did, but it was very divisive, and then season 8 was just garbage. So leaving it up to the audience to make their own decision, that's probably the best thing that we could have hoped for.
I agree with you on some level. Like, I would have loved that as a jumping off point. I feel like had it been explored well, I would have liked it to have happened that way. Maybe if it had happened sooner, before they had all this drivel in the middle that we didn't care about. I think that would have been an awesome thing to do in like season 5. throw that in, then wrap it up season 5. I would have loved to have seen her or Dexter get arrested, caught by Deb at that point, and her, facing that dilemma she faced it, and then Deb being the one to arrest him. But
my brain medicine just kicked in. Season 7 ends with Deb killing LaGuerta.
Oh, that's right.
Yes, right.
That's the big ending there. So
that's right.
I could go along with. I don't like season 5 as the ending. I could go along with season 7 if Deb killed. If Deb arrested Dexter, or if Deb had killed Dexter instead of LaGuerta, that could have been the end of the series for me. But I've given this a lot of thought. And again, this is the first part of a 2-part question. My answer to, if the show went like the show went, and they ended it earlier than season 8, what would be the best place to end it? I think it's season 4. Mostly for what Aaron was saying, which is the show should not end optimistically. Rita's death is a great, Dexter got everything he wanted except, and there's no one left for him to avenge Rita's death about. So from a storytelling perspective, that's a very finite place for it to stop. Now, if they had actually written that to be the final episode, her death wouldn't have been a stinger at the end. It would have happened somewhere at the end of Act 2, and then they would have had an act of, 20 minutes of epilogue about what happened with the rest of Dexter's life and that sort of stuff. But I think if they had just... and at the time, I hated that they killed Rita. But in retrospect, I think I hated that they killed Rita and kept the show going. I think if they stopped the show by killing Rita, that's a satisfying conclusion to the show.
I think that's fair. Well, and when I say 5, I think more in terms of length of show and not particularly the substance of 5, but if they could take the decent parts, like Deb finding out from the later seasons, and condense them into the season 5 to see the damage that has been done by him allowing Rita to die, and then see him kind of get caught up for all that he did and all that he caused. So not specifically the substance of 5, but the point 5, not going past 5.
So,
I guess is. Yeah.
So can we all agree that it has to go at least as far as season 4?
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure.
That those 4 seasons, season 3 is iffy that we needed it at all, but definitely seasons 1, 2, and 4, I think are the best of the show and need to be there. The second part of the question is, what's the missing season? What's the season they needed to make that they didn't make? And I'll answer that one first because it's a bit of a trickier question. Mine would be that, again, if we're talking about a condensed season 5, if they ended season 4 the way they did, and then early in season 5, or I'm sorry, that's not how it would work. They ended season 4 the way they did, and in season 5, Rita's murder is blamed on Dexter, and Dexter goes to jail, and he's in jail for the one murder that he didn't commit, and he has to go through the trial, and somehow it's found out that he's actually this bigger monster than people thought he was. And so the trial of Dexter Morgan and who it is that knows the extra stuff about him and the extra secrets and that kind of stuff, I think that's the piece that was missing that they just never wanted to do, was the season where Dexter is in prison for part of it and dealing with being caught.
Well, they wanted to portray Dexter as this hero, and he wasn't. And that's something I never understood about this show, is that they just wouldn't accept that Dexter was a bad guy. Like, he did some good things, but he did a whole lot of bad things. Like, just accept it. And they never did. And so we couldn't get anything that would remotely paint him in a negative light.
Yeah, that's why I don't think it would be satisfying for him to have a happy ending at all, which in a way, no, he didn't get a happy ending, but he got away. He got away with it. There was no price. I mean, yeah, the thought could be, you know, he paid a price because he's alone and he's never going to be, you know, around anybody. But he was basically a sociopath anyway. He never really had emotional connections that were real anyway. So really, all we're seeing is, okay, he destroyed everybody, all the good people he was around, and now he's just going to go be a lumberjack. I wanted to see Dexter pay. I wanted a resolution in that, you know, Dexter is paying on some level for all that he did. Whether he is exposed, which I would have loved to have seen, or whether it ends for him, like Deb kills him or something.
Yeah, or the Clyde Phillips ending, where he just wakes up on the gurney about to be executed.
That would have been great. As for missing season, for me, you know, if they ended it with the idea of season 4 being kind of the jumping point for we're going into our end game, the trial of Dexter Morgan would have been fantastic. The other option is at the end of season 6, when Deborah finds out, have season 7 start with Deborah confronting him and he M99s her and everything is revealed as Dexter Morgan has to go on the run. I thought that would have been interesting.
Yeah.
That would have worked.
So just, you know, spitball at ideas, and I think it's something we've actually talked about before. But let's say that, you know, season 4 ends, and, you know, kind of season 5 starts the way that it does. But then Dexter gets this other person that he trains, similar to Lumen, not necessarily in the same capacity that he saves Lumen from this, like, sex dungeon house, you know, and these awful guys or whatever. But that, like, he gets sort of like a Zach from season 8 where he trains this person and like becomes the Harry or whatever, but then ends up falling to the knife of that person. And then that person takes over the story. And then we, you know, now we're in this person's story and what they're using the code for or whatever. Like, so it's less about,
oh, that's a cool spin-off.
Yeah. Then you get a spin-off where you can go with that person into their world, you know?
They could have done that with season 5 and had Lumen kill him at the end of season 5 and then it be the Lumen show after that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And just not have gotten Julia Stiles or, you know, get somebody that they can afford to keep on for multiple series.
Yeah.
So I have a question. I have my own personal thought on it, but at what point did this show make a decision that sent them on the wrong path? Where did it go wrong?
Well, I think really between 4 and 5, because you're changing showrunners, you're changing ideas, you're changing writers. You know, I mean, I kind of link it to like The Walking Dead. Like, The Walking Dead is a completely different show now because they've completely changed showrunners. There's, you know, and lots of shows go through that. But I think for this show, at least I can see the depart from 4 to 5, and even especially from 5 to 6. Like, had they kept on Johansson for 5, 6, 7, and 8, maybe it would have been a little different. Not that 5 was the best, but at least it wasn't 6, 7, and 8. So that's where I think.
Yeah, I'm not coming up with her name off the top of my head, but the head writer for the first 4 seasons leaving after season 4 was also a huge problem. You know, where they just had to keep it going, and so you lost the showrunner and you lost the head writer, and it's like trying to run Breaking Bad without Vince Gilligan after season 3 or something. It's like, that's just not going to work. I mean, I really, you know, from what I've read and what I understand, what really went wrong for Dexter was because it became the most successful show on Showtime ever. and Showtime would not let them stop making it, and they would not let them make certain decisions that might alienate people that love Dexter. So
They got greedy.
I think season 3 is a mistake. I don't think they did a good job of coming up with a storyline for that season. I think season 4 is much, much better. If it had ended after season 3, we'd all be talking about how season 3 was a shitty finale for Dexter. When they killed Dokes, like killing Dokes and not ever having another like competent detective on his trail, that really messed up the show. The dynamic of the show.
That is my opinion of where it all went wrong. By killing Dokes, it just started a downward spiral. It was a slow death from that point. It never recovered. Season 3 was garbage, and then season 4 it had some really good points with the Trinity Killer, but at that point Dexter was the end all be all. I never felt that Dexter was closest threatened at all.
The closest threat was Lundy, who was introduced in season 4, and if Lundy had gotten on Dexter's trail by season 5, then we would have had something.
Lundy was introduced in season 2.
Oh, in 2, yeah.
Yep.
But he's in 4. Yeah. He's back in 4. And so if they hadn't killed him off...
Dies in 4, yeah.
By Trinity's weird daughter.
I even forgot about the daughter. God, that was a terrible storyline too. But yeah, I think like 3 wasn't, I mean, it was fine. I didn't think it was terrible. I didn't think it was good. I think it was just okay. But I think it really fell apart from going from 4 to 5, because that's when we lost a beloved character. We lost Rita, and it was all because of Dexter. So then this part of us as viewers that kind of wanted to feel some kind of maybe not sympathy or empathy for Dexter, but we had some kind of emotional connection to him, trying to have feelings for Rita and trying to, be a parent. Then that disconnect happens when his actions got Rita killed. Then it was a lot harder to root for Dexter, I think, after that point as well.
Well, that leads us into some of the think pieces that I've been looking at about Dexter that other people have written about. One of them talks about how Dexter was defanged and how the original premise for the show got lost. That when Dexter premiered in 2006, it was a big question as to whether they could get the audience to root for a serial killer. That was not something that they, knew for a fact was going to work out. And once they made that work out and they got the audience on his side, they always played it safe. They never had him do anything super questionable that would get the audience against him ever again, which is like essentially the opposite of the way Breaking Bad went. Right? Where Breaking Bad, you start out, you're on Walter White's side, and somewhere along the way, you're like, nope, fuck this guy. And that was the premise of that show, was we're turning Mr. Chips into Scarface over the course of the show. And so there should have been places where, the audience should have gotten divided over whether or not they're on Team Dexter anymore. And that never happened.
And I think with a character like that, it can be, like you said, to the extent that it went with Breaking Bad. It has to be that, to where even though he's bad, you don't really root for him, he's at least interesting. Or you're sympathetic and you find him likable. Dexter just got in this line where he was really a kind of a boring character, because it really wasn't all or nothing on either side. He
was always protected by plot armor. And that's kind of the big, in that particular piece that I read, which was a Digital Spy piece. They said that anything that he did that might have been ethically questionable got nerfed. And they bring up the examples of Lila and LaGuerta, where where it actually should probably be Dokes and LaGuerta, where like instead of us going through the, Dexter has to kill Dokes, it's the only way, he's got to do it, it's a terrible thing, but he's got to do it. They just have Lila kill Dokes. And then we don't have a problem with Dexter killing Lila. We're totally fine with that. And the same thing with LaGuerta. It's like, can you imagine if Dexter had killed LaGuerta? Completely against the code, completely for his own survival, and with Deb, like, knowing exactly what was going on. But no, they have Deb kill LaGuerta, and Dexter's absolved of anything that would make us dislike him.
Yeah, those moments are really missed because, what's crazy is that, like, even though Deb does kill LaGuerta, you still feel bad for her because she's put in this position that she does it, choosing between her brother and her friend. And then even by season 8, then she dies. She's really the only one that I felt any emotion towards, even though she did do terrible things. But it was almost because it was like always in service of Dexter, and he just got away with it all. Like he's almost like a little spoiled little brat, and everybody has to suffer because of him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's one of the things I appreciate the most about the books is that Dexter is never presented as a good person or somebody that you should root for in the books. He is a absolute monster. Him and his brother brutalize LaGuerta. They just
in the first book.
Yeah, in the first book, they just completely destroy any semblance of redemption for this character, like, immediately. And then from then on, he does a bunch of horrible things. Yeah, he does some good stuff in there, but you never feel like this is a good person. This is somebody that I would trust.
But you can do an anti-hero correctly. Yeah. And I think Walter White, that's a pretty great example of it, especially since you start out, feeling sympathy for the guy. He's struggling to get by. He's working 2 jobs to support his family, and then he has cancer and he can't afford it. Like, you're on his side for all of that. And then by the time you're like, no, this guy has gone too far. He's greedy. He's doing this because he likes it. He's not doing it because his family needs him to anymore. He's still a great and interesting character to follow. And from a entertainment perspective, you want him to win. But from an ethical perspective, he cannot win. That's not what should happen.
Yeah. How many books are there?
12, I think.
It's only like 6.
Oh, okay.
Oh, wow.
There's Darkly Dreaming Dexter, Deeply Disturbed Dexter, something like that. Dexter is Delicious. Dexter Double Feature. I can't remember the exact titles.
Do any of them follow any semblance of any of the other plots?
No.
From any of the seasons? Nothing?
What the show is based on the first book only, and only the first 3 episodes are like canon the same as the book. It's one of the reasons, like, there's some things that happen in the first 3 episodes that never happen again, or like people's personalities change after the first 3 episodes. LaGuerta is really the best example I can think of, where she has that weird subplot at the beginning of the show where she's like flirty with Dexter. That's part of her character in the book. That disappears after the 3rd episode of the show. Yeah. And then she doesn't get killed in the first season, as you would expect if you read the book. She doesn't get killed until the end of season 7, so she lives for a long time.
They diverge pretty hard from the book, even in the first season. the ice truck killer is actually in the book known as the Tamiami Slayer or Slasher or something like that. And they actually remember that episode where they put the body parts like Christmas presents at the display at the mall. Well, in the book that happens he leaves them in an ice hockey rink.
That happens in the show too.
And was it? Okay.
It happened in the show. It was like the third or fourth episode.
And they actually see him laying out the body parts on a security camera, and they think it's Dexter. And Deborah's the one that finds the security footage, and she actually covers it up, gives him 24 hours.
Yeah, they changed that in the show where they have footage of somebody leaving the parts on the ice.
Yeah.
But it's a guy that works at the ice hockey rink.
The security guard.
Who's being like held at gunpoint by Brian Moser off camera.
Yeah.
Right.
In the book, Brian is his identical twin because even Deborah can't tell them apart.
The book's lame, guys. Besides the identical twin thing, I read the first book and that's it. And I've talked about it before, but just to reiterate, the Dark Passenger is like a supernatural entity in the books that takes over Dexter. And so as opposed to him like having conversations with Harry, it's like him and the Dark Passenger arguing about whether or not they're going to kill somebody.
Yeah, and there are parts where Dexter actually gets knocked unconscious and the Dark Passenger takes over his body. It's weird.
Yeah, I don't like the whole. I'm not a big fan of magic stuff in general, supernatural stuff in general. If we're talking about magic or ghosts, I'm out. I like stories grounded in more of reality.
This is my debacle right now. This whole like adaptation from novel to series. I'm going through some real problems with his Dark Materials.
Yeah.
And man, I'm just like, because I love the books so much and I thought they were so well done, and the show is just atrocious. It's like, it feels like Dexter. It feels like they didn't even start off, in my opinion, well, and they've just like, they got a little better, but it's not anything like what the books intended to be or whatever. Now it seems like with Dexter, they at least took off in a different direction, and it was successful to a certain degree than the books. But yeah, it's tough. It's tough to adapt. I think it's really, do you follow it closely? Do you really take liberties with it? Do you change characters' intentions? Yeah.
I think the show had very different goals, and once it became a ratings phenomenon, it had a lot of goals as far as, audience retention that I think really held it back. One of the other things that we've talked about a lot, especially in the early seasons, is that, this is a premium cable show about a serial killer who is a blood spatter expert. And yet this is one of the least gory horror type, true crime shows you can watch. Like, most of this could be shown on network television.
And the first season or first two seasons actually did air on CBS.
They cut them down a bit, but because of the Writers Guild strikes, they needed content for CBS, and so they aired at least a season of Dexter on CBS.
Huh.
But, we always bring up the example of Hannibal, which I still think is the goriest television show I've ever seen, and it was on NBC and rated TV-14. So it's weird to me that like there should be episodes of Dexter that are hard to watch just based on who he is and what he does and who he's up against. And it's not like that. It's all like, you know, it's sub Law and Order SVU levels of cringe.
Oh, that's actually very fair. I agree with that.
That comes back to them wanting you to cheer for Dexter, wanting you to be on his side, because if you don't see what he's doing to these people, you see blood splatter
And I get
here
that,
and there.
and that's fine. But like, okay, so like the ice truck killer's first body that we see in episode 1, one of the goriest bodies we see in the whole show. That frozen, iceless body. And then the only other one that I can think of that was like visually compelling and somewhat grotesque was the Horse of a Different Color episode, which was a season 6 episode.
That was gory.
With the bodies
and the body parts.
Yeah.
But like, you know, you don't have to it doesn't have to be Dexter that does the gross stuff. I just expect if I'm watching an HBO or a Showtime crime story that they're going to present me with adult material from time to time, that it's not just going to be this like soap opera.
Yeah, there should have been a lot more shock value. You want it to be a little bit more, not that this is the best example, but the characterization is like an American Psycho versus, you know, trying this overly sentimentalized soap opera, like you said, version of a serial killer.
Well, I mean, even if Hannibal had been from Hannibal's perspective instead of like the third person, or, you know, you could argue it's kind of from Will Graham's perspective, but it's really a third person view. Like all the stuff that they show him doing, it's like when they show him preparing the quote unquote food, it's always like a cooking show. And it's like, that makes me hungry and it makes me grossed out all at the same time. Yeah. And it's brilliant.
Effective. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It was effective. That's what you want in this kind of show. Yeah. And Dexter it lacked teeth. I like somebody put it defanged. There was no teeth to it.
Glorious things I've seen on television is the final season of Hannibal, where Will strings up that body with the wings to try to signal Hannibal, get Hannibal's attention.
Yeah.
Dear God, that is brutal.
Yeah.
And
well, they have
Dexter,
a guy carving pieces of his face off. Like they actually got that onto NBC. Like,
still amazed. Oh, so good.
Dexter doesn't have anything like that, even remotely like it.
And I think that's because I think they were worried that. So I think that Showtime, you know, Showtime knows who their audience is, and I think that they realized that they had this hit, and there were people that watched the show that were like physically attracted to Michael C. Hall and were watching it for that they loved that character. And they just wouldn't risk scaring away those people with shock, and they wouldn't risk scaring away those people with Dexter doing something that person couldn't morally agree with.
Well, I also think Hannibal benefited from AMC taking a chance and being as gory as they were with Walking Dead.
Hannibal was on NBC.
Well, I know, but I don't know. I think they opened the door that, oh, you know what? We can get away with this and build an audience.
Well, but zombie violence and robot violence are a whole other animal than human violence. Honestly, that's the truth. That's why, like, there's a lot of T-rated games that are super violent, and your enemies are always robots instead of people, or they're always zombies instead of people, because they can get away with that. It's fucked up, but that's how our very violence-biased American media works with that stuff.
We're all in shock. We're all in shock. No, we're all we're processing. There's so much to process.
There has been a few people that have sort of hinted, cast members that have hinted that they weren't happy with the finale. One of them was Charlotte Rampling, who said that the ending wasn't very good, that she was happy to be part of such a long-running series and enjoyed playing her part, but that she was disappointed when she saw how it ended. And one of the other big ones was Michael C. Hall, who didn't go very far because he knows that there's always a chance that Showtime will ask him to come back, because that's why they kept him alive. But there was a Reddit AMA, and someone, instead of asking, did you like or hate the ending of Dexter, they just asked him, what was your reaction to reading the final scene of Dexter? And his response was, probably sadness.
Wow. Profound.
I kind of think that the Dexter character has infiltrated Michael C. Hall's just personality in general, where he's doesn't even know how to think anymore. Although I haven't seen him on the new show that he's on, so it could be different, but yeah.
What's he on now?
I don't even know if it's on.
He's on a British series.
He did that.
Harlan
Safe.
Coben Safe, but I don't know.
Safe.
That was a couple of years ago, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was just a mini series, and it was good.
Yeah. I think he's on something else now.
No, I think you're right.
He's been on. He did a bunch of theater after Dexter.
I remember that.
He was in David Bowie's Lazarus.
Played JFK in The Crown.
Oh, that's right. He was one of the big profile things he did after Dexter was he was in the Broadway show that David Bowie wrote, Lazarus. It was one of the last things that Bowie worked on, and he was the lead in that.
This is In the Shadow. In the Shadow of the Moon.
Oh, is that a movie?
It's a Netflix thing.
It might be a movie, yeah. Yeah, it's a movie. So maybe it was Safe that I was thinking of.
Yeah, I don't think he was in a hurry to get back into a television series.
Yeah, it was Safe. That's what I was thinking of.
He was on 6 Feet Under forever, and then he was on Dexter forever.
Well, good luck, Michael C. Hall. Hope it all works out for you. Probably sad.
Probably.
We talked about, as we went along, how many people from this show ended up working at The Walking Dead, or a lot of them. That show seems to churn through people, chew them up and spit them out. And then there were also a bunch of people that ended up working on Netflix's Marvel series, Scott Buck was the showrunner for Iron Fist, but there were people that worked on Jessica Jones and not Luke Cage, but
Daredevil or the Defenders.
The Defenders. So, it seemed like all the ones that people from this show ended up working on were kind of the lower tier ones.
The ones that definitely got less positive response, which was the Defenders and
Iron Fist.
Yeah, people enjoyed most of the other ones. The Punisher was the other one that
they liked. The Punisher.
Yeah,
they liked Jessica Jones.
The one season of Luke Cage.
Yeah, which I despised. I hated that show. I hated most of them, actually. I wasn't a big fan of Daredevil at all.
I liked them, but I wasn't in love with them. I just thought they were too long. I was like, "This just
exactly
very boring,
slow."
Yeah,
they didn't need to be as many episodes as they were, for sure, for the amount of story they were telling.
Yeah. Like comic books don't feel like that to me. So why make a show about comic books that's anti-comic book?
Yeah. Well, and just the idea of Marvel movies are already 2+ hours long. Now you're going to go to an episodic format. Maybe you don't need to worry so much about making the whole season feel like one story. Like maybe tell a couple of small stories with that character, kind of introduce that character up. But yeah, I don't know. I think
I will say
that's one of the things people like about The Mandalorian is it's got that sort of next gen thing going for it where you don't have to watch it in order. You can just kind of watch an episode and it tells its own story and it's over.
Yeah. I will say that I do appreciate the fact that at least that Showtime and Dexter stopped at the 12 episode season, unlike something like Lost, where, there's some of the seasons of Lost that are 24, 25 episodes that are all almost an hour long. Like I'm still trying to finish it. And I'm getting lost in all of the plot and like just being like, so they're referencing stuff from season 1 or season 2. I don't remember that. Like it's too complicated.
That's
know,
a network
it's too
TV
much.
thing is to have seasons that are that long.
It's awful.
I was watching I was actually watching a review of the first season of The Mandalorian, and they were talking about how the reason that Next Gen sort of hit on the formula of having bottle episodes and having, not having a storyline that carried all the way through was that they had to make like 26 episodes in a year is one every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
It's insane. So yeah, of course you have to have episodes where all of the characters are just on one set for the entire runtime of the show. That kind
when I was working, I was going to say when I was working on stuff in New York, I was in the production offices of Law and Order, and I could actually see their production schedules, and it was exactly like that. It was like an episode a week, essentially.
Yeah.
And they would sometimes carry over a little bit, but like they were pumping out so many episodes so fast that, and of course, Law and Order is a machine, and it knows what it's doing, and it knows its formula at this point, but it's insane.
Yeah.
To what they do.
Yeah, and those shows work. Like Dexter would never work as a 24 episode season because of Michael C. Hall, or because of how important Dexter is to the plot. Like there would need to be at least double the number of characters so that you physically could not have Michael C. Hall on screen for 80% of every episode for 26 episodes a year. Right? So like Law and Order, they've got the police and they've got the attorneys, and they can divide that stuff up. And so maybe the attorneys are shooting, 2.5 episodes a week, and the police are shooting an episode that week, and then the next week they flip it. So
you just can't do it if you have that person on screen the whole time.
And I think for the most part, like, apart from seasons that just aren't good in general, I think 12 was the right number of episodes. I just think there were definitely seasons where they took their sweet ass time getting started, or they would have an arc that would last 3 episodes and another arc that would last 3 episodes. Or the thing in season 8 where they had like 6 characters they needed to kill off in the last 6 episodes, so they just did it one every episode died. It was like they killed Vogel and they killed Cassie and they killed like every episode had to have some named character death in it.
Yeah, I think I'm a fan of like the 8 to 10 episode seasons right now, where I'm just like, great, it's just enough, not too much. I can binge it if I need to, or I can take my time with it. I think anything, we're getting to an age in our media consumption where we don't want more. We want less.
We want quality.
And we want it faster. We do want quality, but it's like, quality and to where I can like, because there's so much. That's the thing, is like there's so much media now. how many apps do I have? How many platforms do I watch stuff on? How many networks do I still follow TV shows on? You know, like I want quality, but I also want less of it so that I can actually keep up. If I can't keep up, I can't watch it, you know?
I think with the advent of streaming, the shorter seasons are becoming more common because it used to be networks. You did have 20 some, but now we've got streaming and we've got the cable options that are doing shorter, and networks are starting to get in line with that too.
Yeah, I like the general like 10 or fewer episode rule that seems to be prevalent on streaming. I'm a big fan of that show Narcos on Netflix, which is like a semi-anthology series, and it's always like 6 to 8 episodes a season. I think that stuff works really well. I was trying to think of like Showtime series since Dexter that I have really liked and watched. I'm sure there are some. I watched all of The Affair and I really liked it. I have not started the current, which I believe is the 7th season of Ray Donovan, but that show is okay. I'm trying to think if there's anything else Showtime's put out that's really been cool.
I've been watching a lot of stuff on Showtime recently. We just picked it up again, and Work in Progress is very different.
I've been watching that. That's good.
Yeah.
Is Kidding on Showtime?
That. Yep, Kidding's on Showtime.
I watched that.
I haven't started it, but I've heard good things. No?
I didn't like it.
I want to watch The Loudest One in the Room because I'm just curious about the story and seeing Russell Crowe with
The
Roger
Loudest
Ailes.
Voice.
Loudest
Excellent.
Voice, sorry. Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah.
So
I
yeah,
watch
think
everything. I watch every damn thing.
Showtime's got a lot of good stuff going on, at least right now, which is nice. But yeah, it's just a lot. It's a lot of media.
There has been a couple of articles and people have talked about it. There was an article written about the 10-year anniversary of the premiere, which would have been back in 2016, where they talked about how Breaking Bad is remembered as the series that pretty much everyone was happy with how it ended. The Sopranos is the series that everyone remembers for being very polarizing in how it ended and causing endless debates. And Dexter is the example of how not to end a series and what can happen if you let your series just run for too long. That seasons 6 through 8, possibly 5 through 8 are, just a complete decline. But that season 8 itself has such a steep drop off that it just gets so much worse every episode that it just becomes a parody of itself. And then there were people, critics that were writing at the time reviews of it that said episode 12 seemed to have been written as if it were the finale for a different show than the one we've been watching. That it was the finale for a better show than the one we've been watching because we're supposed to care about things a lot more than we do.
Fair.
So I definitely think it's the worst finale of all time.
I can't think of a worse one right off the top of my head, so I would agree with that.
Yeah, I completely agree.
There are contenders for second place.
Oh, definitely.
Game of
Don't
Thrones
you
is a
say
contender.
Game of Thrones? Don't you
Game
say
of
it.
Thrones
I
is
love
right
Game of
up there
Thrones.
with Dexter.
Well,
Good
that's
God.
the divisive moment then, because I loved the.
I don't think
the
it's
finale of Game of
divisive. I
Thrones.
think you're the only one.
You're
I don't think that's true.
No, you're in
I
the
thought
minority.
it was okay. It wasn't
That's
good,
fine
but
to
I
be in the
thought it was
minority.
okay. I don't think it was as bad as this or even close, though.
Oh my God! Like
There were some redeeming values to it.
The thing about and I immediately am contradicting myself because here I am finishing a podcast about this show. But the thing about a bad ending, like a just fantastically bad ending, is that it makes it so that you don't ever enjoy watching the show again. Like going back, like it
Right.
retroactively ruins the show. And That's definitely the case for me with Game of Thrones, where it's like I cannot go back and watch season 1 again because I just know that it's only going to lead me back to heartbreak. I'm going to go back and love it again, and it's just going to let me down. Tyrion's going to turn into a moron, and they're going to forget how to write, and
yeah, that shows balls too. Like I did not like how it ended. That entire season was garbage, and just it ruined everything. Like, even going back and watching some of the earlier episodes, I don't even enjoy those because it's
in service
I just
of
hated
a terrible
it so bad.
Story.
Yeah.
Well, I fuck back, so just throwing it out there. Yeah, agree to disagree.
What are shows that long-running shows, shows that ran for longer than 4 seasons that you have or would watch more than once?
6 Feet Under.
That's got some problems.
It does, but I love that show. Like, I think the
ending is really good, but it really has some problems toward the end.
See, I thought the problems were around season 4, and then I thought it recovered pretty nicely from there. The final season is one of my favorite seasons of television.
I mean, beyond obvious things like Breaking Bad, The Wire, that kind of stuff. The Shield is probably the longest show that I've watched more than once. It's 7 seasons, I think.
Yes.
And they're long seasons. They're like 20 episode seasons. And it's rad, and it has one of the best endings of a TV show. It has a better ending than The Sopranos, I think.
Well,
it's not better than Breaking Bad, but it's very, very good.
See, my favorite episode of The Shield is actually a few episodes before the finale. Or actually, it might be the one right before it, called Possible Kill Screen. Gosh, so good.
Yeah, that was a really well done show.
The only one I could think of in terms of drama, and it's still on, is Walking Dead.
Dude.
I gave up on it this season. This is the first season I haven't watched. I quit. I made it so far.
I still enjoy it. I'm still into it.
I mean,
it's not as good as it was.
You can see yourself watching this again?
I could see myself watching maybe the first couple seasons again, but outside of that, no.
I went back and rewatched a season recently. It was a recent season because my parents weren't caught up and they didn't have access to it because they lost AMC on their cable. Yeah. So they binged it here when they came to visit us during the holidays, and actually enjoyed even though it was probably one of the not great seasons because it was one of the more recent seasons. I really enjoyed rewatching it just because I was like, oh, I forgot about this thing and forgot about that thing, and like, so I wasn't put off by the fact that it was one of the not best seasons because I was just like, oh, right, they're doing this thing to satisfy this thing or this thing and that thing. Like, the last couple of seasons, especially leading up to the whole Rick situation, not to spoil stuff, but like,
I feel like everybody I know has gotten to a point with that show, and it's been different points for everybody where they just say enough and give up on it. And that definitely happened for me.
Mm-hmm, me too.
I mean, I've already rewatched Game of Thrones, so you'll already all hate me for that.
No, I mean, like, I would have rewatched all of Game of Thrones up until season 8. I would have. Like, if you had said, hey, before season 8 premieres, you want to, like, marathon it over a week, I'd have been like, sure, I'll watch, 48 episodes of that or whatever it was. But because of the ending, it retroactively breaks the rest of the show for me. I think with The Walking Dead, I could rewatch the first season and enjoy it. I think,
and it's only 6 episodes.
yeah, I think in retrospect, like for me, as soon as Frank Darabont was out of the show, it never was going to recover. It just kept getting worse and worse.
Well, it became a completely different show.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was like, it was around like season 6 or 7, I think, is when I could feel it changing and not being the same. Like basically when they got to Alexandria, the show completely changed.
Yeah, I quit not long after that. Maybe a season after that. I was
powered through.
I really dislike the way that show walks in place forever, and then something amazing happens right before the mid-season finale. And then it comes back and nothing happens again, and then they do all the action in the finale. It's like they make 2 episodes a year that are interesting, and the rest of it is just boring-ass characters walking around not doing anything.
That's the point I came to. I watched the first couple this season, and I cut the cord. Can't do it. Just don't care anymore.
I like the Negan seasons were pretty good. I mean, that's because Jeffrey Dean Morgan is fun to watch.
I think I watched the first one with him, but I think that's where I checked out. Was after that.
We all know that I'm an oddball and like a lot of the things that most people don't like.
Hey, I get it.
No, I think like your approach to entertainment is different. Your approach to entertainment is, I want to like this, and like you go in and the you know, whatever it is that you're watching starts at like an 8 or a 9 out of 10, and it has to do things. It has to like actively hurt you to make it go below that. And for me, everything starts at a 5 out of 10, and it has to either win me over or not. And so most of the things I watch end up being a 4, 5, or 6. So, you know, even things that a lot of people love, you know, I can say that's a 6 at best, but I can understand why it's really entertaining. It's sort of like when we were doing the premiere midnight screening videos, and our whole thing was seeing every movie that came out and telling people like which movie came out this week that was the best to see. Like, if you're going to see a movie this Friday, this is the one out of the ones to see. But then we get comments from people who go and see 3 or 4 movies a year. And if you see 3 or 4 movies a year, chances are really high that you're going to like those movies. Right? Because you don't have a whole lot to compare it to. You go in wanting to enjoy your experience. Nobody goes to the movies wanting to have a bad time, myself included. I don't go and want it to suck. I have biases, and I have, you know, information that says, hey, this is probably not going to be a great movie. But you know, there's the people that go and see very few movies a year, or they only see one genre, you know, or people that go and just see the Marvel movies, and they talk about how great all the Marvel movies are. And it's like, well, yeah, some of those can be great and some of those can be good, but like, it's not the movie to see this week out of all the movies that are out there. But for you, the person that's only seeing those movies, it's like, you know, it would be like if most people only had network television and just couldn't understand why Breaking Bad is better than The Office. It's like, well, it just is, but I understand that you like the show that you have access to, and it's the one that you watch. So that's fine. But we're coming at it from we're approaching it from different angles.
Yeah, my parents would say Modern Family over Breaking Bad.
Sure.
That's their show. That's the one they watch. That's the one that's always on.
Yeah. And that's a fine show, or at least it was like 7 years ago when I stopped watching it.
Right.
I can't believe that's still on.
I don't think it is anymore.
All right. Well, I think the podcast ended a while ago.
This is our longest episode
So much
ever.
to talk about.
Yeah. I just wanted to sign off by saying thank you for all of you guys sticking this out for 96 episodes. It's been a lot of fun. We're hoping to do something like this, but not exactly like this, and certainly not as in-depth on one thing going forward. But keep an eye out for us, and thanks for listening to Deeply Discussing Dexter.